Forgive me if I stutter a few times during this. You know, there are so many women that are in relationships with abusive men. I just saw this woman 2 months ago. She happened to be a girl I went to school with, and she finally came out posting on Facebook that her boyfriend's beating her so bad and beating her child that they both ended up in the hospital. And everybody told her, leave him. And then 2 months later, she's posting pictures with him because it's his birthday, saying, I love him so much, he's the one for me. You may think he loves you, but if he hits you, he does not love you. This is called Everyone Fights. It was 2003, the day that they met. He helped her carry her groceries to her car, and he said, you're so beautiful. Would you like to get lunch? Lunch turned into dinner, and every weekend they'd meet up. He was sweet, gentle, kind, and said all the right things. She told her friends he's the one as she showed off her ring. The wedding was gorgeous, a sunny day on the beach. For better or worse, he promised to be a loving husband, protector, and soon-to-be father. See, she just found out she was pregnant a week before she walked down the altar, and he promised to love her and give her a warm, loving home, and she promised to be faithful so that he'd never be alone. The honeymoon in the mountains began in peace, romantic dinners, movies, conversations, and sweets, but as she said she was tired and she wanted to go to bed, he grabbed her tightly by her hand and yelled, we are not done yet. Shaken, she cried. She said, why did you do that? He said, I'm so sorry, it won't happen again, I just get mad. He held her close and he looked her deep into her eyes. He forced out some tears to show her he could cry. She held him tightly and said, oh baby, it's okay. I'll stay up tonight with you. What was I thinking? I'll just nap on the plane. 2 months pregnant. In the morning, sickness was getting worse. She was calling off work and she was resting a lot. The dishes piled at the sink and the floor wasn't swept, because every time she stood up, she'd throw up and want to rest. The door slammed when he returned home from his job. Dishes were loudly clanking and her heart just dropped. Broken glass on the floor. She came to the kitchen. He yelled, you stupid bitch. You couldn't even do the dishes. She went to the sink to clean and he smacked her in the face. She held her cheek, mortified, confused, and afraid. She ran to the door and she grabbed her keys. He said, please, baby, no, I'm so sorry. Don't leave. I don't know why I did that. I just had the worst day. Baby, it'll never happen again. Just come in and stay. Well, she was married and pregnant, so she needed to make it work. Apprehensively, she hugged him even though her face hurt. He said, I love you. I promise I will be with you forever. This will never happen again. We're meant to be together. 5 months went past and he became very jealous. By this time she was on bed rest and she felt very helpless. He'd scream after her father would visit. He'd block calls from her mom. He smashed her phone and he threw her laptop against the wall. He'd only hit her face at first to protect the baby. She'd wear cover-up, but her hands were always shaky, and her mother would visit and she started asking questions, but as soon as she would leave, he made sure she learned her lesson. She was 9 months pregnant when she went into labor. She said, I need to go to the hospital, and he began to shake her. Her water broke in the car, and he screamed about the seats. She apologized profusely, saying, baby, I can get it clean. A few hours later, the baby was born. The doctor was a man, so he called her a whore, saying, that's his baby, isn't it? I knew you were a cheater. She denied it and begged him not to leave her. 4 months later, her face was covered in scars. Broken beer bottles had slashed her face and her arms. Her eyes were bloodshot from the times he had choked her. Her family and friends begged her to leave so this could be over, but she said, he really loves me. He just gets mad sometimes, and I deserve it. After all, I've messed up so many times, you wouldn't understand it. You need to stay out of my life. I love him. I need him. Everyone fights. 3 months had gone by with no contact, and her mom feared for her safety. Her family filed a missing persons report on her and the baby. It would be another 3 weeks before the police would discover their bodies. The baby was curled up, clutching onto her mommy. They were put in a suitcase and sunken down in the river. See, that night she couldn't keep the baby quiet, and she begged him to forgive her, but this time he didn't stop until the baby was done screaming. And he said, now I'll make sure that you will never leave me. You may think this is just a poem, but you'd be mistaken. 1 in 4 women in their lifetime have been abused by their partners, and nearly 137 women have been killed daily by close family or partners, many by husbands, and just like this baby, their fathers. So while you still have time, I beg you to please get out. He does not love you. If he hits you, there is never an excuse for this. Don't doubt it. Because he wants to control you, and it's not just a normal fight. So while you still have time, get out while you still have your life.